Hello and welcome to Silas Rattenborg's channel. Today I, Malthe, is going to talk about the movie Equilibrium. We have quite a few things to talk about today. First off, I'm gonna make a quick summary of the movie. Then I'm gonna make an analysis of the movie. And then finally, I'm gonna put it in the context of our utopia/dystopia topic. Okay, so Equilibrium is an American dystopian science fiction film directed by Kurt Wimmer, and it's from 2002, and it takes place in a post-World War III society, and the city is called Libria. And in order to prevent a fourth World War from breaking out, everybody takes this drug which is called posium, which make them not feel human emotions. That way everybody can be equal, since nobody knows what equality even means. Our main character is this guy called Preston, who is a cleric who is like a secret police officer who specializes in killing emotion offenders who doesn't take posium and feels things, and they usually hold up in a place called the Nether. And then one day Preston stops taking his dose of posium, and then he starts feeling things, and then he finds out, feeling things is actually pretty great. And then one day in the Nether he finds this dog, and he thinks it's pretty cute. But then the evil guy, the father, and his soldier says, "You cannot keep this dog, Preston." And then he's like, "Oh, what the hell? This dog is so cute." And then he shoots everybody because he wants this dog. And then he overthrows the father and starts a new society with some rebels and stuff. So yeah, that's pretty much the plot of the movie. And now, moving on to the analysis. So here, first off, I'm going to talk about important scenes in the movie. One of the first very important scenes is when Boromir is hiding in the Nether, and his partner Preston comes after him, and then he reads a quote from a book with William Butler Yeats' poetry, which is, "But I, being poor, have only my dreams. I have spread my dreams under your feet. Tread softly, because you tread on my dreams." So basically what this poem is all about is the intense amount of love that the poet has for someone, and that he would do anything to make his dreams come true. So what Boromir in this case is saying is that he has someone he has an intense amount of love for, and he has some very big dreams that he would do anything to make come true. At first, the main character Preston doesn't really know what Boromir is saying because he's drugged up on posium, so he ends up shooting him. But this is the first set in the chain that makes Preston stop taking his posium. The next set in the chain that makes Preston stop taking his posium is when him and his new partner arrests this woman named Mary. While Preston is interrogating her, she tells him, "It is circular. You exist to continue your existence. What is the point?" And Preston doesn't really have an answer. And then she says to him, "Without love, without anger, without sorrow, breath is just a clock ticking." So basically what she is doing here is making Preston question his own existence and the purpose of his existence. After this conversation that Preston has with Mary, he stops taking his posium, and a short while after, the perhaps most important scene in the whole movie comes. In this scene, Preston is walking around in a secret room where all the rebels keep their stuff, and he is feeling it with his hand, and yeah, it's quite clear that he is now feeling and he is not on Prosium anymore. And then he picks up a ball of glass and he holds it in his hand, and then the camera sort of zooms into his eye, and then in the next setting he drops the glass ball and it shatters on the floor. So first off, there is the symbolism with his eyes in this scene, and this reminds me of the movie Minority Report, which we watched in class, where we have all this symbolism with the eyes and the quote, "Do you see?" And in this scene particularly, it is quite clear that now he sees the world in a different way, and he is free from this illusion that he has been kept in by the Prosium. The other symbol in this scene is the glass ball with the Tower of Eiffel in it, which he drops and it scatters. And it's quite clear that it is a symbol of his whole world being shattered, and he's now having a completely new view of the world. And you know what that reminds me of? That's right, Plato's allegory of the cave. It is like Preston has been down in the cave this entire time and has experienced the world as an illusion, and he is now above the cave and he is experiencing the world as it actually is. And this also reminds me of the movie Matrix, where our main character Neo is brought inside by this character named Morpheus. So both of these characters get a completely new understanding of the world that they live in throughout the movies. And where in Matrix it is Morpheus that brings Neo insight and knowledge and enlightenment, it is Mary and Boromir that brings Preston enlightenment. So in the movie we also have quite a lot of contrasts, and I think it is easiest to talk about these contrasts if we talk about them in the context of the two factions that are in conflict in this movie, which are number one, people of Libria, and the rebels who live in the Nether. Okay, so I made this list where we have the rebels and the people of Libria, and we have the contrast between the two. So we have the rebels who embrace culture and books, and they have all these paintings which they are trying to protect. Where over here the ultimate goal for the people of Libria is to burn all books and all culture, and they in Libria all sorts of literature are banned. And then we have the rebels who embrace freedom and personal freedom, where the people of Libria they sacrifice freedom to have order, and I mean they are kind of suppressed since they are forced to take this Prosium drug. And then the rebels, it's not really that clear that they embrace democracy, but when Preston meets their leaders, they are all together and making the decisions together. And over here in Libria we have a totalitarian regime where the father is like the head of the society, and he decides everything himself. Oh, and you know what all of this reminds me of? That's right, Nazi Germany. In Nazi Germany, they used to burn books as well. Not all books, but books that they deemed not good for the society. And then they had this secret police to make sure that everything was in order. And it reminds me a lot of the police that they have in this film, which Preston is a part of, where they bring all the non-supporters of Hitler and the whole project, they bring them to concentration camps where they are burned, and of course Jews as well, Jews and homosexuals and all of that shit. And they burn them in concentration camps, which is a lot like in this movie, where they burn people as well. And then they also had a totalitarian regime where Hitler was der Führer. And a fun fact about Hitler as well is that he used to take drugs from his doctor that made him feel less nervous. So I guess you can say that he felt less human emotions, which makes a lot of sense since that project that he was going through with was quite inhuman. And then of course we have the flag of Libya, which is almost identical to the swastika. So one of the main themes of this movie, I would say, is humanity versus technology. And in this case particularly, the technology is this drug called Posium. And the movie is trying to show us what technology can really do to humanity. And in this case, it is the rebels who represent humanity, and technology that represents the people of Libya that represents technology. And it doesn't look very fun to live in Libya. It is a lot like Brave New World, where people take this drug called Soma, so they are happy all the time, and they don't really feel human emotions either. Another big theme in this movie is definitely censorship, since they burn books and literature is banned, and so is paintings and all kind of culture. And that is a lot like the novel Fahrenheit 451, where they also burn books and books are illegal. And finally, the last big theme of this movie, I think, is ignorance versus knowledge, where we have this totalitarian regime in Libya, which is trying to keep the people ignorant by making them take this drug called Posium. And where in contrast we have the rebels who live in the nether, and they know what's going on. And this is also where Plato's allegory of the cave comes in. The people of Libya, they live down in the cave and experience the world as an illusion, since they take this Posium. And the people above the cave are the rebels, and so, later on it is Preston as well, since they don't take this Posium and they experience the world as it actually is. Okay, so now I want to put this movie Equilibrium into the context of our dystopia-utopia topic. Even though we kind of did this already along the way, but there are still more things to be said. Okay, so I made this list of the text / movies that we have been dealing with in this dystopia-utopia topic. And I want to talk about the traits that this movie Equilibrium share with some of these. Okay, so first off we have Brave New World. We already talked about a little bit about this, where the people in Brave New World, they take this drug called Soma, which has a lot of similarities with the Prosium that they use in this movie Equilibrium, since both of the drugs basically makes the people not really feel human emotions. Okay, moving on, we have Minority Report. In this movie, we have a lot of symbolism with the eyes, which is also a very clear symbol in especially the scene where he drops the ball of glass, and before that they kind of zoom into his eye, and which represents that he now has a different view of the world. And also a very classic trait that is in Minority Report and also in this movie is that the main character is first working for the system, and then a sequence of actions takes place, and then he ends up working against the system. And our main character in Minority Report also does that. Then we have Harrison Bergeron. It's very much kind of the same thing. Harrison Bergeron is kind of a prime specimen of the human race who revolts against the regime, the suppressing regime in this text. And I guess you can say it's kind of the same in Equilibrium. Preston is pretty sick with 2 guns, so he is also kind of a prime specimen who can overthrow the system all by himself. The difference is that Harrison Bergeron dies in the process, and he doesn't really achieve anything, where Preston, he actually manages to overthrow the whole system all by himself. And then we already talked a little bit about this, where in Fahrenheit 451 they burn books, and there's a lot of censorship and stuff like that. And in Fahrenheit 451 the main character actually also ends up working against the system, where he started out with burning books and he was a fireman at the beginning. And it's kind of the same thing in Equilibrium here, where Preston is one of the secret police guys who finds the people who is against the law and against the regime, and then he burns them, and yeah, and then the story goes on and he ends up working against the system. So I think that just about sums it up. It is really clear how this movie Equilibrium shares a lot of the traits that the other text also shares in this topic, and therefore it fits perfectly into this dystopia utopian topic. And it is also quite clearly an American and classic American science fiction dystopian movie where personal freedom is not a thing, and that is the most dystopian thing that the Americans can think of. So that's it for me today, guys. Thanks for watching, and remember to subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys next time.